We're reaching that stage now. We're reaching that stage where stupidity is probably the word I would use, is gradually creeping in to my social media feed, to accusations which make absolutely zero sense whatsoever. We're going to talk about a lot of that in today's Raw reaction, and that is what this is going to be. Ahead of Arsenal's game against Burnley. No show yesterday because I just took a day off. I did 3 shows on Friday, and I just thought Saturday we're just going to have it off. And we're going to come back and do a couple of shows today, which we will. We'll be back straight after the Burnley game. But for now, let's talk about the reaction to Mikel Arteta's handling of Arsenal's players. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Welcome back to the Raw Reaction Show, where I react to the latest Arsenal news. Not usually too emotionally. But yeah, I'm just frustrated at the moment. I'm frustrated at seeing consistent unfair criticism of the coach coming out now. Now, let me set the scene for you, especially for people that might tune in and think, who is this guy who's going on about Arteta? Clearly he wants him to stay. Let me just set the scene for you in terms of my view on Arsenal's situation, on my view of the coach right now. I think that the long-term project at Arsenal is something that's going to take a long time under Arteta. However, if results do not pick up against Burnley, Southampton, Everton, Chelsea, you can only go on for so long not scoring and not winning games. And so it's not a case of you are Arteta in or Arteta out, however you want to play it. If things don't pick up, change would be necessary because you can't carry on that way. What I would say is though that if things do pick up, I think there's a lot of people that say if Arteta turns around the season, Arsenal are able to qualify for Europe next season and make some decent additions after what has been a horrific start. I think some people might have to eat a few of their words, as I will do, I'm sure, if things do not pick up. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think that ultimately Arteta has made some mistakes this season for sure. I think some of the team selections have been wrong. I think some of the tactical decisions have been wrong. But actually, based on what, if you look at it as a whole and what he's done over the course of his tenure at the club, which is just over a year now, he's actually done a lot of things right. Which, when you consider the club that he's at and the situation that he's come into and the mess that he had to take on from Unai Emery, which we should address quickly. I think that's kind of where the issues start at Arsenal. In a way, it's looking at the disparity and the disconnect between the players and the coach at the end of Emery's time at the club. We have never seen, in my view, a more angry, disconnected, failure to put in the effort kind of team dressing room than we did at the end of the Unai Emery era. And Freddie Ljungberg has come out and spoke about how one of the biggest targets was bringing the club ethos and bringing the morale back up after the end of the Emery era. That was one of the biggest challenges that Freddie Ljungberg had to do, and then Mikel Arteta when he took over. And there was going to be massive issues. I mean, the Xhaka thing that happened with the fans happened during Emery's tenure, and Freddie Ljungberg then reintegrated Xhaka into the 11 again, and then Arteta took on that role. And everyone was given a clean slate when Arteta came in. You saw Guendouzi playing, you saw Xhaka playing, you saw Ozil playing. You saw all of these players have a completely clean slate and were given an opportunity to play. COVID then hit, and we have the lockdown situation. And afterwards, we didn't see Mesut Ozil. Now, there's kind of 3 players that I want to focus on in this video. Mesut Ozil is one, Matteo Guendouzi is another, and then William Saliba is the third one. So let's do that in order. Mesut Ozil's situation, there are bits of the situation which I think we can kind of glean from the understanding of the club and the understanding of how we know about the player and the system and it works and his contracts and stuff like that. He was playing under Arteta, not brilliantly. He was playing fairly well during the first part of his tenure at the club, and there was a couple of decent things about his game, but he still wasn't the Mesut Ozil that we knew when he first signed. He wasn't the Mesut Ozil the first couple of seasons that he was here with Santi Cazorla and Alexis Sanchez. He was still a declining Mesut Ozil that we had witnessed go missing in so many away games against Big Six oppositions. He wasn't someone that was having a massive impetus on the game. And under both Wenger and Emery, he had problems. He was left out for completely random reasons, be it back problems, be it illness. He had issues being in the team. We know that, and it's well documented. And Arteta comes along, and that problem came up again, and it's persisted again. And then a lack of effort in the training ground has persisted. And Arteta's taken action by removing him, from taking him away from the first team's squad in terms of the selection. He's still training with the first team. And actually, I think the fact that he's still training with the first team, if anything, goes to show you that this isn't a case of Ozil, you're not playing, go away, go train with the reserve side, which you actually see with a lot of players, like Danny Rose at Spurs, for instance. Ozil is still training with the first team, which, if anything, is more evidence that this is down to purely the fact of how he is in training and how other players are in training, and that he hasn't stepped up enough. There is an element that I think that Ozil is unfortunate not to be put into the Premier League squad, because Arsenal are in a creative glut right now. We are in a horrific drought of creativity. And if there's one man that will add some, no matter how limited now towards the end of his time at Arsenal, he has some creativity. So I think it was a mistake not to include Ozil in the Premier League squad, for sure. And that's fine, even with his form, as bad as it is. I think, and my theory is, and I think it is the same for a lot of people, that Ozil's situation has very much been that there are financial implications of playing him that would cause the club to pay Ozil more money. And with just a year left on his deal, and with no one willing to sign him, the club, I think, in terms of like a higher up level, have made a decision to say, we're not going to play him as much. We're not going to include him because we need to save money on the guy's wages. He's not paying back the 350 grand a week that we decided to pay him. That's completely the club's fault. Ozil's contract is not his fault. It's not Ozil's fault he earns that amount of money. The club decided to pay him that. But it is also then the club's decision to handle Ozil how they choose to. And if they choose to not include him in the squad because they want to save money on a very extortionate deal, then you got to say, okay, because he's not done anything for me. He's not done anything for me to show that he should be back, like playing week in, week out for Arsenal over the last 2 to 3 seasons, if we're being very honest. And that's really frustrating, that I see criticism of Arteta beyond just the inclusion of him in the squads, that goes beyond to saying that we're having a massive creative problem, and Arteta is one of the big reasons for that, for not including Ozil. When if we're being 100% honest, like, he hasn't been good for us for a long time. Consistently, he has not been good for Arsenal for a really long time, has he? If we're being really 100%. And this is coming from someone who appreciates the ability that the guy's got. I think he's arguably got the most talent of any player in Arsenal's squad. But he doesn't show it on a consistent basis. And for that reason, and the effort that he's putting in on training, and the principles that Arteta has laid out, and he came in and said that you will do this, this and this, non-negotiables and all that, and he's not done that. He's not putting full commitment. He's not showing Arteta enough to make him think he should be in the squad. Now, in January, we will revisit this, because there's kind of 3 routes that could happen with Ozil in January. First route, DC United or a Turkish club come in for him and he goes. That's one route, and I think that would be the best route, ultimately, for all parties. Second route is that he gets included in the squad, is that Arteta feels that he has done enough in training to convince him that he should be playing in the Premier League squad, that we move on other foreign players, because, of course, the foreign quota is over by 2 with Ozil and Socrates, arguably 3 if you include Saliba at European level. So you have to think about that side of things, is that we would have to move on, arguably, foreign talent for him to then be able to fit into the squads at times. And not only that, the third route is that he just continues as it is, as in he doesn't get included in the squad and his contract just runs down. And if that's the case, then there's nothing that else can be done. From that point, there's no point even discussing it, because he'll be gone. His contract will be done. It will be finished. But I don't want to see people criticising Arteta for finally doing what 2 coaches failed to do consistently, which is, if he's not showing up, if he's not turning up and doing enough for you, then don't play him. Let there be consequences for the actions of not putting 110% effort in. And Arteta did that and has done that with Ozil. So that's the first element. That is the first thing for me. Let me just see if there's any comments about that before we carry on. Trying to focus, but I know there's a lot of talk about lots of different players on this topic, so I'm just trying to pick out. Here we go. Joseph Maseko says, the Mesut one was correct. The other two in relation to Guendouzi and Saliba were wrong. Arteta has destroyed the value of both of those players. He can't manage for anything. Okay, it's probably a good place then to talk about Guendouzi. I think the man management of Arteta is going to have problems. He is in his first senior role as the main man of a club. It isn't going to be perfect. However, to say that Arteta cannot man manage is a joke. It is an utter joke because he has improved players in this squad, especially in the defensive part of the pitch. 100% we've seen an improvement from players. And he's gotten the best from some of those players as well. In the final third of the pitch, we have problems, like serious problems. And I think he is definitely a more defensive-minded coach than we actually initially realised. And gradually, if he's given time through earning better results, he has to earn that time. It can't just be given to him. He has to earn that time through results, which hopefully we will see against Burnley and Southampton and Everton and Chelsea. I look at the Everton game as a more winnable game than Southampton with how good they are at the moment. He has to earn that time, but in time, if he earns it, I see him getting more from that front line. Gradually, with the additional personnel that hopefully we will add to the squad in January. Now, and in the summer, of course, when we lose a lot of our deadwood. The Guendouzi situation. I have seen so many Arsenal fans over my time of watching football and other teams from other leagues laugh at the behaviour of players like Mario Balotelli, laugh at the fact of the likes of Manchester United and Chelsea and whoever Mourinho's at, usually, laughing at the behaviour of some of their players and saying, it could never be Arsenal. Could never be Arsenal. Arsenal's filled with too much class for that. You'll never see someone doing that at Arsenal. And yet we have this guy, Guendouzi, who has notorious disciplinary problems which have come to the fore through his coach at Lorient, who's come out and said that he had trouble working with him. This isn't someone that Arteta signed, which you should also point out, and has had issues at Arsenal. He has clear attitude problems. We remember the whole 2-1 thing at Watford, which we went on to lose to draw 2-2. We've got the issue with him strangling Neil Maupay. Now, whatever you think of Neil Maupay, and I don't like the guy, but on a football pitch, you just don't strangle a player. Like you just don't do that. Now, some people turn around like, yeah, that's great. Oh, I love that. Oh, it's great. Oh, strangle him. Yeah. Oh, I love it. But no, it's not, is it? It's not what you do on a football pitch because it's only going to... I mean, the amount of people that are like, yeah, go on, Guendouzi, strangle him. And then when Pepe goes and headbutts Alioski, he's like, what Pepe doing, idiot? Like, you see the contradictory hypocrisy of it all. It's silly, isn't it? So when you look at the Guendouzi situation... we don't know a lot of what's happened. We don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. The only thing that we know is what he did at Brighton, and all we know is the things that he's put on social media, which were the comments, which was the little pally tweets that go on with Ozil, because they're both in the same situation, which we're now starting to see with Saliba, which I'll come on to a second. But it does not matter how much Guendouzi is worth. It doesn't matter. Because if you compromise the integrity of the manager through playing someone that has a clear attitude problem and has refused to apologise, which is something that has come out very publicly, you can look on Football London, you can find it in reputable sources, that Guendouzi failed to apologise for the actions that he did on the pitch and for whatever else he's done behind the scenes, because there was issues when they went to, I think it was the Middle East they went to on a trip, and there was issues out there with Guendouzi, and that's perplexing. Like, how on earth we can turn around and say that, we have to play him because he might be worth a bit of money. I know that Arsenal need money. I know that. But you can't compromise the integrity of the club over a few quid. Like, you just can't do that, because in the long term, it just compromises all the principles you've got as a manager, and you're never going to have the dressing room behind you. You can't turn around and be like, he's losing the dressing room, and then be like, we should have had Guendouzi playing, because it contradicts itself. You can't think both things. You can't say that Arteta's done the wrong thing by not playing Guendouzi and then start saying he's starting to lose the dressing room, when ultimately, if he'd included Guendouzi, it would have made the situation even worse. So it does not matter about the kid's value. The club did one of the best things by sending him out on loan. One of the best things they could have done. That is the best situation the club could have gone through. Easy explanation as to why. If he's abroad he's playing, or if he's in another club, even within England, whatever, if he's on loan, he's playing. He's playing, he's gaining value, he's doing whatever he's doing out there. He can do his little pathetic celebration if he wants to when he scores. And I hope he does well. I don't particularly like the guy, as I think you can tell from the attitude that he's got with the club and the players. And even when I don't like a player, if they're playing for Arsenal, I'll get behind them 100%. But ultimately, he's got an attitude issue. I hope he does really well abroad. I hope he does really good things, and I hope he comes back and Arsenal can get a good fee for him, or he integrates back into the team after being given a second chance by Arteta. Either or is fine for me. But you cannot compromise the integrity of the club to try and get a little bit more money for a player. You just can't. It's pathetic to think that that's possible. So the club has handled, and Arteta has handled, the Guendouzi situation for me perfectly. And I've gone back and forth on this. I've argued internally. I've argued with people, or debated with people, I suppose, in the WhatsApp groups. And I'm sure there'll be discussions in the Discord server about this show a little bit later. But for me, I don't see a problem with the handling of the Guendouzi situation at all. Clear problem in the player's mentality. Clear issue with the influence he has over the players that he's managing to have on the likes of Saliba as well. It's just, for me, silly. Can we not spam the chat, please, guys? If we do, you be gone. It's as simple as that. Let's get some of your thoughts to the Guendouzi situation. Now, Joe, I did respond to you, so I'll let Joe respond in the chat. He says, Tom, you're straw manning. I said he should be benched for a period, not play him. My point is you don't keep him out of the squad indefinitely, publicly be immature about it either. Now, you do keep him out the squad if he continues to behave and continues to refuse to apologise. You continue. Because if you do, if you say well, he's not apologised for 6 weeks, that's probably enough time now, I'll put him back in. No, you don't just abandon your principles because of time. Time is relative. It doesn't matter how long the non-apology goes on for, the lack of apology. As long as he's not apologised, you don't put him back in. Because as soon as you put him back in without him apologising, the message that sends out to the other players is that you can get away with whatever you like. You might have to sit out of the squad for a few weeks. But other than that, you're fine. No. Joe, be real, mate. I'm sorry. I just disagree with you wholeheartedly. You don't just leave them out for a few weeks if they've refused to apologise indefinitely. You leave them out until they are willing to come back around and abide by the situation's rules and regulations that Arteta has set out. Until you fall within those lines, until you fall within the parameters that Arteta has set out, you don't play. Until you do it. It's as simple as that. Kick him. I can't kick anyone. I can kick people, but I'm not seeing a reason to yet. And people are allowed their opinion. That's the ultimate thing, is that I'm not going to kick people out of the chat just because already they're disagreeing with me on something. I'm not going to kick anyone out. I'm going to kick anyone out if they abuse people in the chat box, and feel free to highlight people that are doing that. But I'm not going to kick people out of a chat just because they disagree with me. People are entitled to their opinions at TGT. You can come into the chat and you can voice your concerns as long as you do it in a professional manner. I have absolutely no problem with you disagreeing with me, and we can have a discussion. And I just think that if you can't, Twitter is not for anyone that is not willing to, first of all, have their mind changed, and second of all, see opinions that are different to their own. If you're not okay seeing people with a different view to you, then these aren't the platforms for you. Yeah? You've got to accept that people are going to have a different view to you, and you've also got to accept that your opinion can change, and that it should be able to be changed by other people if they raise up a good enough argument. I thought previously that there was no other coach that made sense right now to Mikel Arteta. None. Absolutely none. And the thing is with that is that I've recently had a discussion on the pod in which I was convinced that actually there are other options, or specifically one that I thought actually that makes quite a lot of sense. Someone suggested Ralph Hasenhüttl as a possible successor if the thing with Arteta doesn't work out. And I thought actually, you know what, with the way that he gets the best from players, the way that he builds the attack, the way that he improves players, the way that he works with young players too, that makes a lot of sense. And if Arteta does go, Hasenhüttl could be a really good opportunity and a really good case study for Arsenal to look at. And that's what you need to be, is you need to be open. You need to ultimately be really open to other people's opinions on whatever. Oh, God, is it another Kane-Son duo that's just gone through? Probably. It's just non-stop at this stage, isn't it? It's just irritating. Anyway, let me just open up my YouTube app on my phone because I feel like I do need to to ban some people at this stage. It's a shame. Like, you think that people would just like be up for a good chat, but they're not. There we go. There we go. Okay, so Philip says, regardless if you're Arteta in or out, allegiances should always be towards stability. Saliba should be careful, although I get his frustrations. Guendouzi needs to be sold. Philip, let's talk about your point on Saliba. That's the third player that I wanted to get onto today. I want Saliba to succeed so much. Like, I'm desperate for Arteta to succeed. Like, you want it to happen. It's nice he's got that link with the club. But it'll always come down to the fact that if Saliba does not play, then he isn't going to get a chance to show what he's about, is he? Like, I would like to see Saliba in the squad. I'd like to see him prioritised over people like Mustafi being in the squad. I would like to see Saliba being given opportunities in the Premier League when we're in position to win games. Now, Arsenal aren't in a position to do that at the moment, are they? Like, Arsenal are not in a position where they can risk a young 19-year-old that has played 6 months, if that, of competitive football last season and is now playing in the under-23s. Like, Arsenal are not in a position where they can risk putting Arteta in. And the point, and the one about the holding argument really frustrates me, because people are throwing Rob Holding under the bus. Absolutely no problem at all. I'm sorry that he's English. I'm sorry that he cost very little money. I'm sorry that he's not favourable. I'm sorry that he doesn't excite you. But the thing is about Rob Holding is that he's had one bad performance this season against Aston Villa. And other than that, he's been very solid. Our defence at the club is not the issue right now. Our defence is not the issue that we should be focusing on, except some questions upon Hector Bellerin. That is the player that I'd look at where you go defensively. We've got some issues that we need to talk about. But Holding and Gabriel and Tierney, for me, are not people that we should be looking at to question. Holding has been good this season. And you know what? One of the biggest proofs of that is I was having a debate on Twitter the other day, and I was having a debate about Rob Holding, and it really makes me laugh because it was just a perfect situation. Rob Holding, I said in this debate, was like, tell me another game in which Holding has been bad this season. I said, tell me another game other than Villa where Holding's been bad. And you know what this guy said to me? He said Wolves. And I said, why was he bad in Wolves? And he was like, well, he was at fault for at least one of his goals. I can't remember which one, but it was at least at fault for one of them. And you know what's really funny about that? Is that Holding weren't even on the bloody pitch when Wolves scored. He came on at half time. This is the level. This is what I'm talking about. The frustration is that people just believe him to be like an average player, when actually he's pretty decent. Like, he's done very well. In 2 cup finals, he had absolutely brilliant performances that helped us win those trophies. What does that earn him? Nothing. Nothing amongst the majority of the fan base. Hasn't earned a single thing. What happened? He did really well up until his injury. Got injured, was out for a year, has come back, and it's taken him a while to get back to the level that he needs to be at. Now, am I saying that Arsenal shouldn't upgrade on Rob Holding in the future? If we're able to bring in a really top quality centre-back to replace Rob Holding, am I saying that we should say no? Of course I'm bloody not. Of course I'm not saying we shouldn't upgrade on Holding. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you need to be objective and you need to look at actually what the evidence is showing you, and that is that besides the Villa game, Holding has been good. He has been good. You may not like me saying that, which is frankly pathetic as Arsenal fans, but he has been good. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been amazing. I think he's been good. And the fact that he's being thrown under the bus because people are desperately crying their eyes out to see Saliba play is just hilariously pathetic. When Saliba, if you've actually watched the games of Saliba play, Saliba has done nothing to convince me he should be playing over Holding. Should Saliba be in the Premier League squad? Yes, he should be given time to prove it on the Premier League stage. Should he be starting? No, because he has done nothing. His passing is way off. His passing is so far off what it needs to be playing in the Premier League. Lumping balls up the other end of the pitch is not going to get you anywhere unless it's with accuracy. He hasn't got the David Luiz accuracy of long-range passing, and yet he's trying it because he's trying to force it. The context, we should bring up the context because it's fair. It'd be unfair not to. Saliba playing in the youth team, you're playing as a £27 million player surrounded by players that you look at as very much below the level that you're at. It is going to make an effect on your performance, right? I think that's a given. But at the same time, you need to remain professional. You need to remain consistent. He's also been sent off in the last game after having a very good first half performance. I should say that. He was excellent in the first half against Wimbledon. Second half, he got himself sent off for a silly challenge, which I think was harsh. But when you're on a yellow card, do you dive in quite like Saliba did? No. And that shows inexperience. He also should have been sent off against Gillingham for taking down the last man. And I'm just being objective. Now, the biggest problem that Arsenal have had with Saliba is how they handled the end of the summer. That is where you can point the finger at the club and be like, you made a mistake, because they did. The way that they handled Saliba at the end of the season, or rather at the end of the summer window, was terrible. Now, for whatever circumstances went on behind the scenes with Saliba, I'm not 100% in the know about what happened. I haven't seen a report to suggest what happened. I'm not even going to speak the words because I think it would be incredibly insulting to even bring it up because we don't know what the situation is, because I've not seen any official news. You know what I'm talking about, but we've not seen any official things that of whatever's gone on behind the scenes with Saliba. So I think it'd be unfair and unprofessional to talk about that. What I would say is that there were offers from clubs to take Saliba on loan this season. And Saint-Etienne had put the offer on the table. Claude Puel has come out and said that they had the offer on the table, and they didn't do it. And for whatever reason, the club didn't get the loan deal done. And that's on the club. That is on the club. And I'm irritated that he's not gone out on loan. I really hope he gets a loan in January. There's a lot of lazy journalism flying about right now, I feel, with the whole Saliba. I think there's stories that are being invented about him not wanting to stay, that he's not happy with Arteta's not happy with him, and he's never going to have a future at the club. I think it's lazy. I don't agree with that, and it just stirs up the fan base even more. It stirs up the hatred of Arteta even more because people want Saliba to succeed because they've been told that Saliba's going to be the next Rafa Varane, and until he gets actually some minutes on the pitch where he can prove that thing wrong, until then, he is going to remain, in people's eyes, the next Rafa Varane. And Arsenal are going to be looked at the club that got rid of the next Rafa Varane when ultimately he never did anything at Arsenal, in the youth team, wherever, to prove that that was actually the case. And you know what the next really irritating thing about the Saliba situation is? Wesley Fofana. Why on earth people feel the need to compare two players that are different at different clubs with different situations and think that one correlates to the other is beyond me. Leicester spent €40 million on Wesley Fofana. They then had a massive injury problem whereby they were left with Wes Morgan, who's 36 years old and can barely walk. That's harsh, he can. And then they had Soyuncu out, and then they had Johnny Evans. And that was it. That's all they had. So they had to play Fofana. And if you've actually watched Fofana, not all of his performances have been great. Leicester's poor form has been down defensively to issues which Fofana has been part of. He's had some performances where he's looked really good and he's looked like the player that I thought he was in France. But he has had performances where he's been really inexperienced, rash and silly at times. But that gets completely thrown under the carpet because people aren't willing to see that through the argument. And that's what frustrates me so much, is that people aren't just willing to put aside their bias and their view to actually look at the whole picture, to weigh up the pros and the cons. But there are very, very good reasons as to why Arteta is not using Saliba right now. Let me just block some more people. Deary me, it's been chaos in the chat today. Any more for any more? No. Oh, yeah, one more. There we go. I just have. I've kicked the spammers. Don't worry. Don't worry, guys. I'm on it. I need to make some more people... what's they called? Admins. We need to get some more admins. Maybe we'll talk to some members about being admins. But I've issues with admins. You know what the problem with admins is? That even admins have their own agendas, and as soon as someone disagrees with them in the chat, blocked. But I need to get some admins because it's ridiculous. Yannick Max says the Fofana argument is also dumb. Different player, but that doesn't negate how absolutely diabolical leaving Saliba out was as a decision. And I think, Yannick, and I think you'll agree with me, I think I've highlighted that. I've said that I think the decision to leave Saliba out of the Europa League squad is idiotic. It was silly. It was stupid. I think we can agree there. And I think we have agreed on the Fofana thing. The Fofana, the comparison with Fofana is so stupid. Like, it's a different player at a different club, and yet for some reason that correlates to the other. It makes no sense, and it's lazy, and it's inexperienced use of an argument. It doesn't work. Like, it's useless. Let's moderators, Tom. I know I need moderators. I need to get some. I desperately need to get some. We'll have a talk about that with the members. So members, expect auditions for admins. Deary me, because then we can get rid of Christopher Fung as well. We couldn't let Christopher Fung be a member because he'd just kick himself and it would be pointless. Anyway, the last point on Saliba is the social media post. The social media post really, I didn't like it. Now, there is an element that may have been taken out of context. I mean, it's probably best if I get up the actual quotes so I don't misquote what Saliba put. I have to use the blooming Metro. No one likes the Metro, but it will have the actual quotes. Give me a second. Here we go. So, Nicola Pepe chimed in with a response to Saliba, which read, "This is your problem. You comment on everything." And obviously, Saliba put the fire emojis to Guendouzi's goal, which is fine. I have absolutely no problem with that. You're a fellow, like, you're at the same club. You probably know each other from the youth team. You know each other from when Saliba joined. If you want to put fire emojis on Guendouzi's goal, that's great. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with doing that at all. Now, Pepe goes, "This is your problem. You comment on everything." Which again, I don't really know about that comment, to be honest. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's a joke. Like, Saliba is clearly, like, they know what goes on behind the scenes. They have these relationships and friendships with each other, and maybe Saliba is the type of person that always makes a comment about something, which is fine. But then it's then what he says. Now, he says it in French, so there could be a mistranslation, there could be a misinterpretation. But what Saliba says is, "Ha ha ha, I'm sending well wishes to the brother that was locked up like me." Now that's the translation. That is where I begin to take an issue. So I'm going to caveat what I say next with, if this has been translated wrong, if this is taken out of context, then fair play, I'll hold my hands up and I wasn't right on this. But there's just something that bothers me about the fact of saying that I'm being locked up like Guendouzi was, when we know that Guendouzi's situation at the club is very, very fragile. It's very, very dodgy to talk about, and it's just not something that should be brought into the public domain. And then to say that you yourself are being locked up, as in you're being kept away from the first team, when actually you're training week in, week out with the first team, I don't like that. I don't like it. It's just me. Like, I don't associate that type of behaviour with Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal Football Club's very much changed over the years that I've been a fan, as I'm sure it has yours, but it's not very classy, and it should be kept behind closed doors. And then we had the thing with Lacazette the other day in a video where Saliba was basically saying he doesn't even count as an Arsenal player, is that he's not made an appearance, so he can't be a France Arsenal. Like, come on, man. I'm surprised that Arsenal even put that out. That's partly on their social media and media team for even putting that out. I mean, I get the joke, and I get that there's a frustration between the fan base, but that is, I just don't know. Oh yeah, just unbelievable, really. I just don't like it. And AM2200, which says it's not that deep. Now, this is an opinion which I again disagree with. It's like, I get that some people want to overanalyze things. I know that I overanalyze things and have done in the past. I think I overanalyzed Nicola Pepe's comments on international duty, and I reflect on it and I look back. I was a little bit agitated with the current form, and I look back on those comments from Pepe and actually go, yeah, they weren't even that bad. They're nothing compared to what I look at the Saliba comments anyway. And it is that deep, because when you look at the situation of the club right now, it is rock bottom. The context is the club could not be in a worse place right now. The manager is under increasing pressure. And to go out onto social and public medias and to post that, I just think is wrong. I just think it's wrong. Do I think that Saliba should be thrown out of the club for it? No, I'm not stupid, yeah? I just think it's something where someone should just pull him aside and have a word and be like, look, mate, that weren't very clever. it weren't very clever, and maybe you just want to consider how you are and what you post on social. All players go through social media training. All players do. So, and that's the thing. Now, this comment from the Arsenal knock. I think Bellerin warrants more discipline at this moment for his horrendous display. Simeone or Conte should be able to do that. Now, what we're talking about is behaviours that have happened off the pitch. We talked about what Saliba's done off the pitch, and we've talked about his performances in the under-23s, which haven't warranted a step up to the Arsenal first team. We've talked about Ozil off the pitch in training, how he's not putting enough effort in, and therefore they felt a need not to include him. And we've talked about Matteo Guendouzi, which on the pitch he strangled a player, off the pitch he's done things behind the scenes. Talking about things on the pitch is different. It's a different thing you have to associate, because there's different circumstances to the fact of what happens. Bellerin's performances are very much in the limelight because he's an offensive fullback, so he gets very, very far up the pitch, and that means he gets caught a lot, and he shouldn't do, and he should be more disciplined in that positional sense. The backup options to Bellerin are not great. Ainsley Maitland-Niles at right back was decent, but he should be playing either in midfield or playing in that left wing back when we play at 3 at the back. Do I trust Mainsley to be a right back in a back 4? I struggle. I don't think he offers you enough going forwards like Bellerin does in a team that is dreadfully in need of like final third pushing. Like, I think that Bellerin offers you a lot more than what the other options do. Cedric, I mean, people know my views on Cedric. You can look great in the Europa League. Like, you can look wonderful in the Europa League, but he's a bang average footballer, and I don't know why we signed him other than for depth. But I wouldn't be turning around and saying that Cedric is better than Bellerin, because he's not, is he? The thing is with Arsenal fans sometimes, I include myself in this to an extent with some players, but the thing is that the way we perceive players is that the ones that aren't playing get better. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing, is that the players that don't play actually get better, which contradicts fact. It contradicts practice. But in psychological terms, players that don't play actually get better because you think they're better than the alternative, which is what we're currently seeing. Hence why Mesut Ozil comes up all the time. He's the only player in the world, I said, that gets better the less he plays, Mesut Ozil, because we just desperately want him to play. And then when he does play, we realise, oh yeah, I remember why we didn't want him to play now. That's just the way it goes for me. And I think we should upgrade on right back in the end eventually. I think that's a position that Arsenal should look at in the future. And if PSG were to come along with, say, a 25, 30 million bid for Bellerin in January or in the summer, and we were able to bring in a better right back, to bring in someone that was more consistent, and bring in someone as good as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I really like that player. I think he's excellent defensively, and I think he offers a lot of Manchester United going forwards. If we can find someone of that quality and level, then you bring him in. But we don't have the alternatives now to replace Bellerin. Last one is on Granit Xhaka. That's the last one. I don't understand why people think that Arteta is at fault for continuing to play Xhaka after an incident that occurred under Unai Emery was then reintegrated into the squad under Freddie Ljungberg. Freddie Ljungberg reintegrated Granit Xhaka into the squad during the period between Emery and Arteta after the incident against Crystal Palace. I was in the ground when Xhaka did that. I was one of those people that felt very, very much insulted by Xhaka's actions. Now, should Xhaka have ever played for Arsenal again? At the time, I thought no. Didn't think he should ever play for the club again. That was my view. And I don't like the guy. You've seen me on this channel defend his performances, but as a person, I don't like him. And I never could turn around and say I like someone that did that to the fans. I don't think that's possible, how you can like someone that's told the fans to F off. I don't like Xhaka, and I never have since that moment. But what I have done is I've defended his performances when they've been good, which at the end of last season, he was integral to how Arsenal played. At the end of last season, the second half of the season, last year under Arteta, he was one of our best players. He was one of our best players. And it's not debatable. Like, of the squad, I'm not saying he's like world class or anything, but of the group of players that we had, Granit Xhaka was one of our best players in the group. It's not a debate. This season, he's been terrible. Absolutely dreadful. Like, the worst player in the squad, arguably, for me. He's been that bad. Like, I can hold my hands up and be like, Xhaka's been dreadful, because we're objective here at TGT and we talk about things objectively. Like, we don't just focus on agendas and bias. I thought that Granit Xhaka was one of our best players at the end of last season, and I think that this season he is terrible. And that is one of the mistakes that Arteta has made this season, is continuing to play him. Oh God, more blocks are going to have to be done, which is just such a shame. Such a shame. I don't understand why. I understand there's a lot of emotion around Arsenal. I really do. But people who want to disagree with me, look at Yannick Mack, look at Rydog, and look at Beast Titan. We disagree all the time. But the thing is that I welcome their prior and their different opinion, because they do it in a respectful way, and they do it in a way in which they're like, yeah, look, Tom, I think you're wrong here, and here's why. But if you want to throw abuse, if you want to do that in the chat, then there are other places you can go and you can enjoy yourself. Trust me, you will. You'll enjoy yourself there. This isn't the place for that. This isn't the place. So if you want to throw in your insults to other people in the discussion or myself, go elsewhere. We're here to have a debate. We're here to have a discussion about players, and you can disagree all you like, as long as you do it in a professional way, which I've always maintained. Munir says, he only looked that good, in my opinion, because he had protection moving forward and trying to compete with the top teams. He holds us back. Now, Munir, what was that protection? Was that protection Arsenal playing in a 3-4-3 system? Maybe. Was it Arsenal having Ceballos playing really well next to him? Maybe. But the thing about Granit Xhaka, and I've said this for a long time, is to get the best from Granit Xhaka is that he needs protection. The best players in the world don't need protection. But this sounds so weird. Granit Xhaka ultimately needs that security of having a really good group of players around him to look good, or the right system to support him. In a 4-3-3 against Spurs, when you're hit on the counter, he's going to look dreadful, because he shouldn't have been played in that game, and Arteta made a mistake playing Xhaka in that game. But at the end of last season, the system suited Xhaka, the players around him suited Xhaka, and the way we were playing suited Xhaka, and he looked really good. And this season, funnily enough, we've changed the way we play, we've changed the formation, we've changed some of the players, and now Granit Xhaka's awful. And that's the weakness with Granit Xhaka, is that he needs the system to suit him. He's not a player that can just fit into any system or into any team and just be amazing. Yeah, he's not a Luka Modric. He's not anywhere near that good. And that's why you're only going to get the best from Granit Xhaka when you play a system that suits him. And we're not playing that right now, which Arteta should identify and therefore not play him and play an El Neni, who I feel is a lot better suited with his mobility, or play Mainsley in the midfield. And we need Partey to be fit. If Partey was fit, I doubt we'd be having many of the discussions we're having around Arsenal in general. I don't feel that we'd be in this situation if Partey had been fit for a lot of these games. But he's not been, and that sucks. I also think we'd not be having the discussions if the club actually went out and signed a creative midfielder in the summer. But it's a different story, and for a different podcast. I just feel that we're not objective enough sometimes as Arsenal fans. We can't look at what's happened previously and think, you know what, actually, yeah, he was good there. He was good, but now he's terrible. It's just he's shit. That is all that people say, that he's crap now. That's all people say now, without looking back and thinking. I had a discussion with someone last night who genuinely just wasted my time. And if there's one thing I don't like, I can waste money to the live long day. If you waste my time, that's where I get so irritated. I can't handle it. And the last kind of point of today's show, as we bring it round to the last 15 minutes, which I realise I've been going on for an hour now, nearly an hour, is this non-negotiables. Now, what I want you to tell me, chat box, jump in here, what are Arteta's non-negotiables? And if you think you know what they are, tell me where you saw them published. Tell me where you saw them spoken. Tell me where you heard what those non-negotiables are. Because I'm struggling. I'm really struggling to try, and I searched, and I'm trying to find where he has categorically said these are the non-negotiables, like all of the non-negotiables, this is what they are. I don't think that some of the players have supposedly broken the non-negotiables, which some people have felt the need to associate with that rhetoric. I don't feel that Arteta has broken his non-negotiables with players. I don't think that has, because I don't think the non-negotiables are specific to a 90 minutes in a game. And I think they extend well beyond that. I think that things can happen behind the scenes in training that we just don't see, that redeem, that convince, that don't convince, that just mean that ultimately those non-negotiables don't like, that they haven't sort of achieved those, and that's why they're not playing. I don't know where people have got like this list of non-negotiables. Daniel Roberts says making the Zoom call on time. That is one. That's genuine. I think that is genuinely one of the you have to, and you get fined if you don't. I don't know what they are. Now, Willian is something that comes up a lot. 1HP says Willian is not doing the non-negotiables. Again, I want to know what the non-negotiables are. I want to know what they are, because no one's told me yet what they are before someone go that he's not following the negotiables. Now, the Willian thing is obviously frustrating. Let's look at Willian's situation at Arsenal and try and make sense of why he keeps starting. The alternative to Willian is Pepe or Reece Nelson. I hope we agree with that. They are the alternatives to Willian. If we're honest, besides like looking at Premier League alone, has Pepe done significantly more than Willian? Not really, if we're being honest. And this is coming from someone that really wants Pepe to smash it. I want him to come back and absolutely blast the league away and really earn that £72 million deal that he got. And I'm seeing people are playing Saka. You can say Saka, but ultimately Saka's a lot better on the left. I think Saka's a lot better on the left, that uses his crossing abilities and his creative abilities much better than on the right. So you could say that, yeah, Saka could go on the right, but then you have to put Aubameyang on the left and Laka through the middle. Like that's what you do, wouldn't you? And then we've got an issue with Lacazette being out of form. So you start to see where the issues start to arrive when we say you put Saka on the right. Well, if you put Saka on the right, someone has to play on the left, and then that becomes a problem. So if we focus on purely the right wing natural players, it's Willian, it's Pepe, it's Nelson. And the thing with Pepe playing on the right is that he's so predictable and so easy to defend against that he's ineffective. And he can't deliver a really good ball. Whereas Willian, whilst he is flawed beyond measure, he can actually put a good ball in the box. Like, he can actually cross quite well. It doesn't happen too often because he's not really imposed himself on many matches. But when he does put himself into those positions, Willian has put a good delivery into the box. Obviously, it led to Gabriel's goal against Wolves as an example. And then you look at Nelson. Nelson is the alternative where I think, because Pepe's obviously been suspended, so that just left Nelson as the only alternative to Willian. Nelson can run a lot. Nelson can run all the live long day, and I think that sometimes that can convince us to think that, yeah, he's putting 110% effort in. But in terms of quality, it's just, again, I get the same feeling from Willock and I get the same feeling from Nketiah. These three players, Willock, Nelson and Nketiah, I just get the sense of I don't think they're going to make it at Arsenal because I don't think they're good enough. I don't think those three guys are good enough for Arsenal. Do I think Willian's good enough for Arsenal? No, either. So before you jump on me and say, so you think Willian is? No. But what Willian has got that Reece Nelson doesn't is obviously the experience. He has more ability than Reece Nelson right now, if we're honest. And he actually offers something going backwards that the other players do. Our right-hand side is dreadful. Our right-hand side is terrible. It is a need that we need to upgrade the right-hand side. We need to get Pepe, and when I doesn't necessarily mean signings either. It just means getting Pepe playing in a system that works to his ability. It doesn't necessarily mean you bring someone in to replace Pepe. Pepe needs to be upgraded in the way that we use him, as in he needs to be played closer to the central striker, more inside, and not shoved out to the wide, not shoved out to the byline. Because if we do that, he becomes predictable. And you can't play Pepe like that because he will be so ineffective and so useless that it's pointless playing him. The right back, that needs work. Bellerin should be upgraded eventually. I think we have probably got the best. I don't see him going up. I don't see his progression increasing any further than where we're at with Bellerin. And whilst he can offer us something in terms of crossing, he can offer us something in terms of running and movement into the final third. Defensively, he's flawed and he gets caught out of position a lot. And that's somewhere that we need to be more disciplined, and we need to have a more disciplined player. But we don't have anyone else at the club who's going to do that. Cedric is not good enough. I'm sorry, but he's not. What you lose, what you gain in kind of a bit more defensive security, maybe in Cedric, you're losing a lot more in what we gain from Bellerin going forwards. So it's a very difficult situation. And what's very difficult for like content creators like myself is that I'll sit here for an hour. This is one of the most frustrating things about doing these videos, is that I'll sit here for an hour and talk. And then someone will jump on the video and watch like, I don't know, 5 minutes. And then you'll comment on what I've said in those 5 minutes, not obviously taking it. I'm not saying you have to sit here and watch 45 minutes to an hour of me talking. All I'm saying is that if you're going to criticise my point, please explain. Please explain where I'm wrong in detail. Just tell me. Don't go, Arteta shit, Bellerin shit. Like, we don't want these guys. That doesn't help me in any way. I don't know what your opinion is. So if you want to disagree, throw a comment in the chat. If you want to agree, throw a comment in the description or in the comment section below. I read through as many of them as I possibly can. I really do. It's hard to reply to all of them because I'm very busy. So yeah, now Arsenal says, Tom, you look very deflated. Of course I'm deflated. Arsenal are 15th. Of course I'm deflated. Like, it's a really crap situation right now. I'm looking forward to the game. I'm really looking forward to the game. I'm really hoping that we're going to see something today that is just different, that is just a response to the Spurs game. Am I expecting it? No. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're going to see it. And what I hope is that if there's 3 ways this goes. Either it's just the same that we've seen, like crosses, Burnley heading the ball away, which is probably what's going to happen. Or it's going to be Arsenal actually changing and doing something different and being a little bit, spicy. It'll be quite nice. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm hopeful that it will happen. And if it does, I look forward to talking to you guys a little bit later today after the game on the Raw Reaction Show. We'll be live straight after the game. So make sure you jump on and we'll read a lot more of your comments out than I have on today's show. It's been a lot of talking from me today. But I appreciate you tuning in. So yeah. Oh, you guys are so funny. Glenn Cook says Niles should be in the midfield and Cedric at right back. Fair enough. Matt Gray says, don't be too sad about Szoboszlai. Oh, we talked about him. You made me speak his name. We weren't talking about him this whole time. We didn't get to mention him. Joe says, Tom, to go back to your Guendouzi, your argument was voided when Arteta hasn't disciplined other players. But I don't know who that is. Like, who should he be disciplining? Like, the Willian thing is interesting because they did discipline Willian. It was all dealt with internally. Willian, from what we know, has admitted that he was wrong for whatever he did. And apparently there was a whole contractual thing with his sponsor to do the trip. So that's a bit strange. But yeah, there you go, Joe. See you later, fella. Peace, Tom. Peace, Philip. Have a good one. A says lofting crosses are ineffective without a target man. I agree. Oh, that's a good point. If you, I wrote a piece for, I got really excited then. I wrote a piece today for 101, link in the description for the website, about specifically 5 Arsenal strikers that Arsenal could look at as like target men, which is very topical right now. So if you want to check that out, then check it out. Oh, Yannick, enjoy the last bit of your weekend before those lots suit up and absolutely ruin everything. That's what's nice about an Avid at the end of the weekend, is it? It doesn't ruin the rest of the weekend, is that. Darren Price says, Yannick Mack, are you an Arsenal supporter? Yes, he is. You're allowed to disagree. Like, I don't mind people that are very down in the dumps about things. What I hope, Yannick, is if the things do turn out a lot better, is that we focus on the positives. That's what I'm hoping for. Iron Cub says, Tom, I don't agree with you saying that Reece is as bad as Willock and Nketiah. He hasn't had as many chances. True. Maybe if he had more chances, he'd be better. But I'm still, from the chances that he has had, again, I'm not seeing much more right now. No Sleep 09 says the lack of crowds has contributed. The players can hear everything Arteta says and it's hindering them in that they've lost the ability to think for themselves. It's not a bad point. Chris says, speak for yourself. I still have a lot of the weekend left in my time zone. Very true. Very, very true. You can have a lot more of your weekend ruined, Chris. It makes me feel warm inside. Picto Gamer says, Partey and Sabah should be our midfield partnership. 4-4-2. What happened to Laka and Alba starting up? I'll tell you, Picto, what happened to Alba and Laka starting up top is that teams worked out that if you disconnect them two from the midfield, it's an easy win. That's what went wrong with Emery in the end, is that he decided to play Alba and Laka up top, we had a couple of decent performances like against Valencia. But ultimately, like Chelsea in the final, we got worked out. And if you disconnect the midfield from the front two, because neither of them was dropping, like Laka does now, you lose that connection. So it's actually very, very easy to defend against. I'd rather see Pepe next to Aubameyang in a 4-4-2 with him kind of dropped so that he's playing off of Aubameyang, because I think you don't lose the connection in that way. So I think that's ultimately what we could do. Chris, I'm not reading that comment out. Ray says Guendouzi has fallen out with the coach at Lorient and Emery, so you can't blame Arteta for falling out of him as well. I think, again, it's just trends. People don't like to see the trends. They don't like to bring them up, but it's true. A says we need goals from the midfield and the wings. We only rely on Aubameyang and Lacazette. We will be lucky to get 10 goals combined on the wings this season. All right, let's get your predictions for later. Come on, throw it into the chat box, people, before we wrap things up. What are you going for the Burnley game? Tell me in the chat box. I'm sticking with my prediction of a 2-1 win. If you want to check out the preview for the actual show, it was yesterday with Andy Jones from The Athletic, so make sure you please check out the preview. But let's see what you guys are saying. Tell me your scorelines, tell me your formations, who you play, who you wouldn't play. Tell me. Daryl Price says 3-5-2 as wingers is not in form. Yeah, I mean, will it work? I don't know. 1HP says 0-0. Daniel Robert says 6-0. Balogun with all the goals, which I remember you saying in the other show. Glenn Cook says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Guna Matt says 2-1 Arsenal. Sam Trester says 3-1 Arsenal. Daryl Price says 3-1. Snipe.Genius says 3-1. Iron Cub says 1-0 lucky Arsenal pen to ruin Sean Dyche's evening. I'd love that. Joseph Maseko says 1-0 to Burnley. Classic Joe. Love your negativity, son. Addicted92 says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Sagun says 10-0 Arsenal. Runnerton hat-trick from off the bench. Alan De Souza says 0-0. Picto Gamer says 1-0. Sibusiso says 1-0 to the Arsenal. Philip says 3-1. Pepe gets one. Pepe can't play, so I don't know how he's going to do that. That'd be impressive. Runs off. I'm not suspended anymore. Runs on and scores. Saeed says 2-1 Arsenal win. Alex McCarthy says 1-0 Arsenal. Aubameyang penalty. Matt Gray says 3-1. Aubameyang will come good. 50 Arsenal crosses is Christopher. We're going to beat the 44. That's the aim. If we get more than 44 crosses, we can be happy. Yannick Max says 3-2. You decide who. Classic Yannick. Omar says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Connor Ellery says 2-1 to the Arsenal. Now Arsenal says 1-0 Arsenal like the old days. 0-0 says Manir. Joseph Maseko says 0-0-10 as a possible formation. 1-0 Arsenal says Saeed. Ray Anderson says 1-0 Arsenal. Chris says 3-1 win. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of positivity, which is quite nice. I appreciate your positivity, guys. I really do. I think that it's good that you can put aside our negative thoughts right now and put some positivity in the chat. I'm sure that plenty of you have disagreed with a lot of what I've said today, which is completely fine. This is all about opinions at the end of the day, but I'd really appreciate if you could drop a like on the video. As I say, we'll be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow? No, we'll be back here tomorrow for sure, but we'll be back here straight after the game. For the Raw Reaction show. What I will do is I can tell you who's coming on the pod, because believe it or not, I've got a little bit organised now to actually get bookings done for podcasts so I can be prepared. And tomorrow on the podcast, which will be at 8:30, is Mike and Andy, which, yeah, Mike and Andy from the Gooners pod are coming on with James Cook, who I know that you'll know very well, Cookie, if you remember him as Cookie. But James will be on with Mike and Andy. Hopefully me and James can kind of calm down their... you know what they're like, Mike and Andy. So that's going to be fun to do that. So 8:30 p.m. UK time tomorrow. But make sure you tune back in straight after the game today for the Raw Reaction show, where we will be here. If you'd like to join our Discord server, which is in constant flow all day long, I think, let me just check. How many members have we got in there now on the Discord server? Let me just have a look. 53. So there's 53 people now in the Discord server. They're all expert members. So if you want to join up as an expert member, I mean, we need an export member to get rid of some of our players. But if you would like to join up as an expert member or hire as a TGT ambassador, if you really want to help out the channel, then yeah, you can join our Discord server. There's a game time channel on the Discord where the guys and girls discuss constantly the game and what their thoughts are, and it's basically like having a WhatsApp group for Arsenal, which is all full of TGT members. So if you want to join up as a expert member, please do. They're absolute legends. I love all of them very, very much, and they've helped support the channel massively. Yeah, join us after the game, people, for whatever awaits us. We'll see you again. It's been a pleasure to speak to you as always. Like, subscribe, have fun. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk TV and at Tom Canton Media. And I'll see you very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.